Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new edition of the Low Code Café, episode 58. My name is Bogdan Litescu. I'm the founder and CEO of Plant an App. And for those of you that are new to this event, know that it's a community event that we are doing every week, same day, same hour. And it's an event where we bring together our community with our employees to showcase techniques, demo new upcoming features in the product. But also we have a hands-on part, which is the biggest chunk, where we actually build something together. And together we have a very, very cool topic that's been long coming. But before that, know that this event is being recorded, and then all previous editions are available on our YouTube channel. We'll post the link in the chat window in a bit. And basically there you can see 57 hours of very good technical content, different techniques on how to use low code to rapidly deliver software. Today we'll have three chunks. First, we'll have some community updates with Chad. Chad is our sales engineer, and he has stories from his conversation, interesting stories that add context to the low-code conversations. And then we'll have the From the Trenches episode with Dale Warner, our head of support, sorry. And Dale will show us some interesting techniques that appear on our support channel since the last meeting last week, since the last webinar. And then finally, the biggest chunk today is building a mobile application with another low-code tool and integrate it with Plant an App on the backend. So the data and the processes live in Plant an App. So very cool technique. This is a question that we get very often from users. How do you build a mobile app on top of Plant an App? So I'm very excited about that and seeing it. Make sure to engage us any way you see possible, chat, Q&A, and then we'd be happy to have the conversation. So without further ado, let's see, do we have Chad with us? Yeah, Chad is using my name. Okay.
Oh, what? I didn't even realize that. Let me go ahead and fix that right now.
You're under cover, Chad.
There we go. Awesome. Hello, everyone. So today, what I wanted to talk about, it's actually an interesting article that I found, and it surprised me a lot that these are things that they even had to write about in the first place. And I kind of wanted to talk about that because it was, well, as I mentioned, it was surprising to me and quite interesting that some of these things could come up in this kind of a way. Now, this is going to come across as a very here's how to sell type thing. And I don't want you to think of this as like a sales presentation, but what you might not actually be aware of is if you're talking to a customer, if you're that person who has to go in, whether it's doing the project management aspect of it, basically if you have to convince them on any aspect along the project and try to push a solution towards them, you are selling. And that's actually one of the places that I started off in my sales career, was being that stealth seller is what I like to refer to it as, where I wasn't the main salesperson they were looking at. I was the person coming in, answering their questions, being that helpful person, in a way, selling to them directly, because I didn't ever have to deal with prices. And you may not have to either, but these things could still come up. And a lot of them might be, very common sense. You're probably looking at that one on the bottom there right away saying, yeah, obviously we're never going to say something like that, but it apparently does come up. And I just want to kind of highlight a few of these things. And if you're not aware, we'll talk a little bit about, why they're wrong, better ways to talk about them, and also different things that we can talk about. Because even with a tool like Plant an App, looking at some of these things, we definitely aren't some of these either. Like, we aren't the one-stop shop for everything. We can't do absolutely everything. We can do a lot. We can integrate with a lot of RPA systems, and that's the kind of power you have to fall in. So it's setting those expectations is the idea of what some of these pieces are. And if we just look at that very first one there, we have the only automation platform that you will ever need. That's not true. I mean, as Plant an App, we are, in a way, an automation platform. You can automate a lot of pieces through it. we connect with UiPath, an RPA tool that is an automation process as well. And having that join between gives you a lot more power than using just one or the other. And that is essentially the story behind most of these. RPA isn't always the answer for everything. Sometimes you will need a low-code tool on the side to help power some of those business-level workflows, get through some of your different technology processes, because not one technology is going to be able to change and challenge all of your needs. Automation doesn't always take months. Sometimes it'll take maybe a year. I don't know that part of it, but it could only take a few weeks as well, depending on the task of the automation. If you just have to automate a few PDFs coming in, say you're automating CVs for a job application, pull out the data, push it over to an email for those that match the criteria you're looking for, I imagine that might only take a few weeks, not a few months. And AI is, of course, that huge thing that probably comes up in a lot of places. I imagine you might have heard it come up from different people. How can we use AI? How can we do all this thing? Not always the answer to everything, but it can be something that's good. So the way that you want to kind of target some of these areas, because you can almost say these exact things, but in a different way. So if we look at something like our technology can solve all your process challenges, that itself might be true. But looking at that very bottom one right there, that one's probably something you'll never say. Our technology is so good we don't need to know your processes. You'll need to understand what all of their processes are before you can ever say that third point there. So the things you kind of need to lean on with tools like Plan and App is the ease of use, the ease of the implementation, the speed of the actual application, and not only the speed of the application after it's done, but the speed of that development process is going to be a huge piece of it. Because if you can go through, understand their processes, you can say to them with confidence, our technology, being Plant and App, being the solution that you build on Plant and App, that's ultimately your technology right there, can solve all of their process requirements. The scalability of it, the architecture of it, all of that can tie into a lot of these different areas, because the fact that these are even being said on different marketing avenues proves that people want to hear things like this. They want it to be easy. They want to have some kind of a comfort built in where, as they're looking for something, it's like, oh, that's the ultimate one-stop solution. If we look at things like Apple, how do they always tout it? Does everything. It's the Apple magic of, you buy your AirPods, you buy your phone, it's automatically connected there right away. You don't ever have to go into a Bluetooth menu. As an Android user, I absolutely wish we had that. Whenever I have to connect my headphones here from my computer to my phone, I got to sit there and hold the power button for like 30 seconds for it to get in the pairing menu. So it's a lot of those pieces that people are looking for, and that you can very easily convey in these convincing ways, just not exactly like that, because you don't want to back yourself into a corner. That's the biggest place that you're going to find issues if you ever go down that route. And I just wanted to kind of highlight some of that today, because as I mentioned, whether or not you think you are a salesperson, if you're working with a customer, maybe even outside of support, although you could argue a little bit of support is salesy in a way, because you have to make sure that they're still comfortable with the application, they're confident in the solution and stuff like that. But you are selling. Almost every time you interact with the customer, you are selling. And these are, apparently, from what I found out just a couple of days ago, some of the very common places that people fall into the cracks and kind of back themselves into a corner that could fall apart. And we definitely don't want that to happen to you guys.
Cool. Yeah, I think I also get this one especially, but the AI solution to everything, and especially in relation to there are no more developers in this world. Can't wait for the AI to start coding, And yeah, AI is not the solution to everything. And in the meantime, low code is a more down-to-earth solution to fixing the lack of developers problem than AI is. Cool. Thanks, Chad, for sharing these insights with us. We are now ready to move on to the devs part. Give us the stories from the trenches.
Great. Hello, everyone. So from the trenches today, a couple things. We're gonna kind of cover a little bit of housekeeping, and then a little bit of technical, and then we'll you get me for the rest of the hour as well. We're going to talk about mobile applications. So we'll start off with software retreat notes. As of today, The minimum version for DNN relative to PlantinApp and DNN Sharp has been increased to 9.6.1. Previously, that was 9.3.2. We'll be updating our public document for that in the next day or so, but our requirements are increasing. And so that's going to be required both to get support and then if you want to install the latest builds. We've talked about it in the past, but the reasoning is that the platform changes significantly. We work very hard to support at least 1 year back, and we are now past the 1 year mark for 9.6.1. So this is just a good time to move forward. So if and this just kind of this then highlights the need to be on a regular upgrade path for both our product and for the platform. We highly encourage you to stay current. So as our software retreat continues between now and ending at the end of March 2022, we'll continue to highlight the changes that are coming up. And I've put on the chat both the links for, well, a variety of links, but one of them is for Chad. And if you're not currently using PlantinApp, you really should contact Chad and secure your discount. We have significant discounts in place for clients moving over from DNN Sharp tools to PlantinApp. And we really hope that you'll take advantage of those. Okay, so next we're going to talk about drag and drop. This came up in a campfire meeting. By the way, those are Fridays at 10 a.m. Central, and the register in advance link is also on the clipboard. But that's a little bit more freewheeling than this. This is a webinar where we tend to present. The campfire is we sit around the virtual campfire and talk about the things that you're facing as you develop, so you can use that as another tool to learn more about low-code and PlantinApp and interact with us. So I encourage you to do that. But in a recent campfire, we got into talking about drag and drop reordering. And today I'm going to focus on drag and drop reordering of listings. And this was a client contribution by Jerry Maddox, and we're going to post the link to that. As a matter of fact, to go ahead and put that on the chat now. But this is to the document that I am showing you on the screen now. This is exactly the steps necessary to go and do drag and drop, and so we'll work through them. And I see the link works. We got Anonymous Kangaroo has jumped in on us. So there's really two steps to doing drag and drop, but the idea is that we're going to have a listing. We're going to be able to reorder the listing by dragging and dropping on the screen. So it's all very visual. It's very easy to set up. Two steps. One, you got to prepare your entity. We're going to be adding a sort order column. It's a decimal, a number decimal, and we're going to have it be sortable. And then we will also prepare a listing, and the listing needs to have a couple of things. It needs to, we're going to add a SQL query that we're going to show you exactly how to build that SQL query. And that is going to activate drag and drop. And then you may want to, the optional is you may want to modify your record creation so that it starts out either at the top or the bottom of the list with an initial value. So let's go through that. I have an entity. I'm going to be working with cities. This is my city data as it exists today. And I haven't done anything with this yet, except I'm going to just refresh here, make sure we're active. So this is a very old entity that I created. It has city name, a city code, and then the weather information as of the whatever the last time that was run, quite long ago, I think. But we're not really going to worry with that. We're going to just, so let's say that we want to be able to drag and drop and put these in order. So we'll go ahead and work through that. So in your entities, we will follow the first step here, which is to prepare the entity. We're going to add a sort order property. So we go into entities and look up city, and we will modify that. Go to the properties and add. This has to be one word, and because this procedure, the SQL that we're giving you uses this field name. So it must be sort order, or you're going to have to make some modifications to SQL. We're just going to add it as a decimal field. That's necessary. And I'm going to go ahead and make this sortable. Excuse me. So we'll save that and override. And so after this saves, now if we take a look at our default entity, it has now it has a sort order column. So if you want, you might want to, if you already have data in the field, you may want to pre-define the value of sort order, just to give it a default value. And so we've provided some SQL to do that. And this is the SQL to do that. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate. We'll go to the SQL console and paste the SQL. And instead of, it's the city that we want to do. So we're going to set the sort order to 0 where it's not null and run that. And so now when we look and display, we have zeros here now. So this just initializes it. You can initialize it to high or low, whatever makes sense to you, but that'll avoid getting errors. So then the next step, as we go back to our steps are that we're going to do a listing. So I have an empty page here. I'm going to drop a new grid on. You'll see this coming in from scratch. So we go into edit mode. We'll add a grid or listing. And we will point it to that same entity. So we're going to do a from scratch, and the data source is going to be cities, and we're going to take everything. The initial sorting, we're going to, by default, sort this by sort order. Field name that was listed in ascending order, and update. We'll add a few fields. We're just going to do name, city code, and sort order, just for easy display. And so let's see what that looks like so far. So we have our listing. We'll turn off search here in just a second. We don't need that. But we want, so this is what we have, and we want to be able to put them in a custom order. So we'll turn on drag and drop. So let's, I'm just going to open this in a new, manage the grid in a new tab so that we have it easily accessible. And so let's start making our changes. First of all, we don't really need the search, so I'm going to turn that off. And then in the drag and drop section, we're going to activate drag and drop, and we're going to need 2 actions. The first action is a SQL, and so we'll run a SQL query. Now the code for this query is, and that's this is the step we've just done, or what we are doing. The SQL query is here in the document, and so I'm going to copy this whole thing and put it into a notepad, and I don't think I got the whole thing. Let's try again. We don't have the whole thing. It's sure going to error. And all we need to do, and it says we need to, what we're going to do is we're going to replace your entity name with whatever the name of the entity is. So we're going to replace all on that. And so now it says that we are, for example, we're working with App City. So we've just made that brief modification. We'll copy this out and go and put that in as our SQL query. So every time that a drag and drop event happens, the SQL query is going to run. And then the last thing that we want to do is a refresh, data source refresh, so that it all happens on the screen. And I'm going to check, but I think that's it. Yep, we have a run SQL query, data source refresh, And we've already set up where our initial sort is by sort order ascending. So we'll save that and refresh. So now we see that the dot menu on the left, and if we decide that we want my town of Tulty, Texas up on the top, see now it has initialized these already just on our first move. So move this to the top, it becomes number 1. We can move Dallas below New York, and so easy as can be. We've activated sort, drag and drop, move New Orleans to the top. That's in our thoughts now with their dealing with IDA. But behind the scenes, you'll be able to read in the documentation to that SQL query. What it's doing is as it moves, it briefly sets the item to a decimal in between wherever you drop it, and then immediately renumbers them all. So it maintains the sort order for you. So that's drag and drop, and everything that you need to do it is in this one document. Cool. So that's software retreat and drag and drop. And again, big thanks to Jerry Maddox for contributing that very fast and straightforward query. So today we're going to move right on to building a low-code application. That's our hands-on part. And so I'm going to give you an overview of what it is that we're going to get done. We, in a previous episode, talked about all the artwork that we have around here at Plant and App, and we've acquired more pieces since the last time. So we have an inventory system to keep track of them, keep track of where they are, and I guess we can take a little look at what we have. So we have our artwork, and each of the artwork has a title, a description, where it currently is. We currently have the screen in the vault, and I've added a details. So if you click on details, you can actually see a link to the. You can see the image, what that piece of artwork is, and so all of our different artwork, each one has a picture, an image. So the idea behind our mobile application is that we want to provide an application so that people can get a list of all the locations if they're wandering about our property, and drill down into when they see the locations, they can drill down to see the items that are represented in that location. And then once they see the items, they're going to be able to drill down and see the item detail. Now, I suspect we won't get all of this done today, and we might have a part 2 next week or in the weeks to come. But we'll be adding the ability, for example, to send information about a particular artwork to you by email, or for internal users, we might be able to work at changing the location of an item to the vault if we're going to move it to the vault or to any other location. So we'll get through those first 3 things today, but we'll probably stop there. Lots of things we can do. I have an idea that maybe you'll be able to order prints from a shopping cart, put items into a shopping cart and then order prints, but we'll see how far we get with this. In any case, the idea here is that we are using a product called Adalo. And while we stop short of a recommendation of it, this is a low-code platform that lets you develop mobile applications. And we're going to develop that application from scratch today. The concept that we would love to present for you, the main takeaway is low-code plus low-code for particular purposes. And this is what Chad was alluding to as well. The idea that we have a great low-code platform in Plant and App, tie that together with a great low-code mobile application development, and you can develop great things in short order. So today we're going to configure our inventory system, and all the work with that is going to be done through APIs. And then we're going to build this mobile application. And if you hang around at the end, you'll probably get a chance to try it out. So let's go. We'll configure some APIs. Let's see what we need to do here. So the APIs that we need to do is we need one API that returns a list of locations. We need another API that will, once the user selects a location, it will return the list of items that are in that location. And then as we move forward, we might be, as we move forward into part 2, we might have an API that will update the location of the item. When we're doing APIs, there's a couple of thoughts. One, you can use the pre-built Plant and App APIs. Every time you build an entity, it automatically builds, for example, a get cities or whatever you're going to be working with. And then another direction that you can use is to copy a pre-built one or build a new one. And we recommend, if you're going to use the ones that we provide, we recommend that you just use them as they are built. Or if you need to make modifications to them, we recommend that you make a copy of them for your purposes. So that's the direction we're going to go today. The other thing is we need to give some consideration to security. And for these first 2 items, location list and item list for the location, we're not gonna worry about security. Anybody can look at our locations or our item lists. We're not gonna lock that down. When we get into updating an item location, we're gonna wanna make sure that you're a valid user on our system or otherwise secure. Okay, so enough talking, time to do. So the first thing that I'm going to do, and it looks like I neglected to log in. Let's get logged in. Is we'll go to the configuration screen and see what we have, the entity that we're working with, and the APIs that we're going to do. So I'm going to open that in a new tab. And so we have configuration, entities, and we are working with artwork today. So the properties that we have in artwork, we have a title, a description, the artist, where it currently is. That's an integer number that points to a location table or entity, the date it was last scanned, and a link for the image. And so if we were to look at locations, and that's really where we're going to start, locations are more straightforward. They just have a name. So those are our entities that we're working with today. And if we wanted to, we look at the APIs. Let's start with location. There is a locations get, and this is the one that's built automatically by Plant and App. And I'm going to make a copy of this just to speed along development. So I'll say copy, and this is going to be called the locations mobile get, and it's going to return the locations. So this is just my custom copy of this particular one, and I'm going to save it and do a refresh. Sometimes new endpoints aren't listed immediately. So here we go. So now we have locations mobile, and so we'll do the configuration necessary on this to make it work for our purposes. So the default one has a row limit, and we're not going to use row limit. We're going to return everything for our purposes. And the first action that it does is to read all locations. And instead of using row limit, I'm just going to define that as 999. We could do a row limit if we cared, but for this purpose, we don't need one. We know that all locations is a good thing to return. In the order by, we want to order these by the location name sending, so that they're not in order, not in order on the screen. And then the output of this is a locations token, which is returned as a raw response as locations. And if we continue to scroll on down, we look at the security. We're going to change this to a public and a public access, completely unsecured endpoint. We don't care if people get our locations. This is completely unsecure. So let's take a test and look at it. And if we execute it, we now get a JSON payload of all of the locations. So we've got the first part done and enough that we can start we could wire up all the APIs, but I'm going to just go ahead and start into building our mobile application using a list of locations. So let's take a look at how to do that. The only thing that I've done here, I'm going to create a new app. We're using a product called Adalo. They have a free trial period, and I signed up for the free trial period and activated their, they have a 14-day trial on some extensions that we need to do API, so I've activated that. But you can get into this very easily. Other than that, other than those two setups, we're going to build this from scratch. So what we want to do, it's giving us choice between a native mobile app and a desktop. What we want to build is a native mobile. And it gives us some choices, and I'm sorry, I apologize, this is small. Let's see if I can make it a little bigger here. We have a blank app. They give us various choices, and I'm just going to do a default app and select that. It asks us for some name and some color, so we'll say that this is Office Inventory app, and we have some default colors. Yep, Roberto, yes, Adalo, you gave me the idea for this, so thanks for that. So we'll create our app, and it's good to go. What we get out of that automatically is a sign up /login screen and a home page. And when we run this app for the first time, it's going to give us access. We're going to have to create an account. And then from there on, we'll be able to log into it. And so I'm going to flip back to keeping track of where we are working here. So in creating the mobile application in Adalo, we need to create the application, which we've done. And then we're going to add an external database, which is the location list. So let's go ahead and start that now. On Adalo, there's a left-hand menu here, and one of the items is database. And so you can add a collection. There's a users database was pre-built for us to handle the sign up and login activity. So we want to add an external collection, and that's the integration trial pack that I turned on and I have 14 days left on. So we want to add a external collection, and the external collection is going to be called locations. And we're getting this from an API. So it's asking us for a base URL. And so we go back to our APIs for location, and we can get the URL from right here. And so this is the base URL. And then in a minute, we're going to need the method. So I'll copy that also. And so we go back here and put in our location. Now, one of the things I've learned about Adalo is that it's very sensitive. We have this pop-up window. If you click off the pop-up window, you'll lose your work. So if I do that, well, you'll hear me swear, but other than that, we'll start over. So we have a base URL, and in this case, we don't have to send any authorization or parameters because we have no security. So I'm going to leave that alone. And then we'll add an endpoint. The get needs this method added to the end of it. And so we will add the method locations mobile. And I know there's another step here, but we'll check on it in just a second. So we'll say we're done. We'll bump into an error, say next. So the next step is that we test the setup. We run the test. And so you can see that it ran the thing, and then it shows you the full response. But it says that an error occurred because when it was doing get all, couldn't find any results. The reason is it needs this key locations. So I'm going to take that and go back and open up and put that as a results key. That tells it what it's supposed to be parsing out from the JSON. So we say next, and test it again. This time it says it's successful, and it's showing us all our data again. So I am going to create that collection. And so now we have a locations collection available to us. Cool. Next step is we're going to need a screen where we're going to display locations. And Adalo has a nice tool for navigation called a toolbar. You've seen this as a common tool. So I'm going to drop this on the bottom of the home screen, and we'll configure it to be able to go to locations. So there's a bunch of other things here that we don't care about. So these other tabs, I'm going to start turning them off. We don't need the third, fourth, fifth. We're only going to use the first tab, which is home. And we're going to use the second tab, which is going to be items, locations rather. And I'm going to use the place marker as the icon for that thing. So now we see locations, and we want an action. The action, and Adalo is really great. It lets us move on. It lets us build screens kind of as we go on the fly. So here we go. We're going to add an action, a click action to the second tab here, the locations tab, and we are going to link to a new screen. The new screen is going to be locations, and we're going to pick a simple app bar looking item and create that screen. Now, one of the stumbling blocks I ran into in Adalo, and took me a little while to find it. It was under keyboard shortcuts, but I've got a menu off to the right and there's no scroll bars. It turns out that the arrows, just the right arrow, is moving me along, and that's how I get from to scroll around on their workspace. So that'll be a time saver for you if you use this product. So the idea here is they've clicked locations, and we want to display a list of locations for them to select from. So we go to our toolbox, and show in the most used collection, there's a simple list, which I'll click on and drag out here. And so this is a simple list. What is this a list of? Well, it's a list of locations. We're not going to add any filters, so it's going to display all of them. And we'll be doing some, let's configure that. So in the title box, there's this, they call it magic text. It's the place where you can browse and see what's available to you in the interface. So I am going to use magic text, and notice that it's showing me that I'm in, since I've said this is a list of locations, it's going to show location, and I'm going to put name as the item. And just for fun, I'm going to put on the subtitle line, we don't really need this, but it might be interesting. I'll add the ID just so we can see some additional information about the location. So we've built some stuff. Let's try it out. We can go to preview at any time, and I've selected the iPhone 11 as our device to try it out. So here's a place to do a sign up, and I'm going to say, put in my information and do sign up. And it brings me to the home screen where I have a home and locations. I haven't put anything here yet at all. But if I click in on locations, you see the first floor, east and west wing. Some of the stuff we have is on loan to the New York Met, and then we have location 3, which is default. So we have consumed our API endpoint and built a list of items. So the next thing we want to do is to be able to go on and display what is in that location. If we click in on the vault, we want to be able to go and see what's in the vault. So that's where we're going to use our second endpoint, which we're going to have to go back and build. So let's do that. We're back to APIs. So, you know, that's the process. We're going to repeat the same thing that we've done, but just for a different item. So if we go back on our APIs and look for artwork, we have an artworks, which is the pre-built one from our interface, we're going to, from the entities, we're going to clone this endpoint and call it Artworks Mobile. Actually, I'm going to be a little bit more involved. It's going to be Artwork for Location Mobile. Because we're going to accept a parameter on this one. So I'm just going to save this and again refresh so I can make sure it shows up in my list. So we have Artworks for Location Mobile, and now we can customize away. So this was actually a bad one to clone. I did the wrong one. This is returning all artworks, and we really needed one. So being a little bit lazy, I am going to delete this one and do the right one. Delete, save. So the one that I should have cloned is to return the information for a specific artwork. That's the one I would have liked to have. And just to avoid any confusion, I am going to export it this way and then import it back in. And I'm going to change the name here in the JSON. This is going to be location mobile. Import that and refresh. Now I've got the right one. Sorry about that detour. So artwork for a location mobile. We're expect this. Wow. We're going to need this one on another day, but this is not the one we need. I was right in the first place. Anyone want to heckle me? Don't delete that one. Delete that one. No one? All right. So we'll do it again. We'll clone this. Save and refresh. Wow. Okay. So this is going to give all the artworks for a given location. And on the input parameters, we are again not going to need a row limit, but we will need what location we're interested in. So we will add a parameter location. And in our read all artworks, this was generated from the entity. We're going to say 999. We're going to take all the items, but the where clause is going to be location equal whatever location was passed in from our parameter here. And it's outputting artworks. And let's see, let's put it in order by title. We have a title field, so that'll be nice. So we'll do title sending. And then again, for the security, we're allowing everyone to take a look at this. So we'll just turn it to public. We'll save it and test it and see what we find. If we go to location 6, which is our vault location, and run it. Nope. Said the wrong. Let's take a look at entities, locations, and take a look at what we got. The vault is location 3, so we'll try that. We have items. We do have items in the vault, so that'll be a good one to test with. So we'll try location 3, and we do get a response. So now we've built on the Plantain app side how to get our list of artwork for a particular location. It's working. So we'll go to the sample code. We're going to need this URL in a minute, just as we did before, both the URL and the method. So I'll go ahead and copy those now. And we're going to be passing it a location parameter, whatever location is at work. So back to our development, databases. We'll add a new collection. And this is going to be the collection. We are going to paste in the URL for the base URL. This time we are going to add a query parameter that's going to be the nope, I don't think we, I don't think, Let's try it. I think we need a query parameter for the location. And we're going to give it the I don't know if I'm doing this right or not. I'm still a little new in Adalo.
Feels like maybe this should be done on the next step, on the endpoints.
It may be, and let's tell you what, we'll leave it out, and we can come back if I did it wrong. So again, in the method, in the get method, we are going to pass in this method that's necessary, and we'll say that we're done and test it. And it says we have an incorrect syntax. And this doesn't work, we'll go back and nope, let's provide that. Let's see if this is going to get us where we need to go. Adalo likes to lose my method when I post it here, so we'll try that again.
Sounds like this might be an error on our end in the API.
It may be, and probably let's test and make sure that it will run, and it might be a security error. So if I take this whole URL and do a get and go into, it doesn't, we've bumped into a security error or other. So let's make sure that this works before we go on. I'm going to go into the entities of our artwork and take a look at the properties. This might be the problem. Nope, permissions for all users to view.
Let's look a bit at the action stack, maybe.
Location equal location.
Maybe we need some question marks around location, maybe in the where clause.
Oh yes. Well, it was working interactively. That's the
one down.
Well, it was running here, so we can double check. But
oh, I got it because it was a number. Yeah.
And actually, let's make sure this is the adventure, right? We'll do a new tab here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Valid method get artwork. Valid method. It doesn't like. Potentially, it's too long. Public access. It's a pretty simple one. I am going to shorten this just. Mistype location. Maybe. Test that. And 3 gives an answer. 4. And again, we'll test with the sample code.
Perfect.
Okay, well, it's working there. Let's try it in incognito, and we're getting it there. So at least we have we've got it working now for reasons unknown. That's the URL. So we'll just try and go back and see if we can get it right in Adalo. And I clicked outside and see it did exactly that. So we'll start over anyway.
Of course, we didn't pass the location ID, so.
Yes, so we're getting closer and closer.
Yeah.
So,
maybe for the sake of time, you can just hard code the parameter. Yeah.
And finally, we get an answer. So, for the sake of time, we have just a couple minutes left. We'll do that. So back to our Adalo, now that we have items for location, we can go in and in the right section, we will activate the right section and add an arrow that will take us to the right. And the action that it's going to do is to link to a new screen that is going to be called, it's called simply items, and again, provide a simple screen. Scroll over a little bit, and we will add a simple list, and the list will be a list of items for location. And I think this may be where we need to provide this. This is going to be the location, and the value of this is the current location ID. So here we go. And to have a little bit of fun, on the left-hand section of this list, I am going to change this to be an image, and the image is going to be the URL from our database. It's going to be the link. And if there's no image, we won't show anything. So let's preview that. and see if we can finish this out for part one. So locations, if we go into the vault, we see our list of things that are in the vault, and we see the, we didn't set the title, so we had some fun, but not enough fun. The title is the magic text to grab the title and preview that. Alt, and here it is. So Lisa in the screen. And since I promised, I'm going to move on for a second to publish this. We can publish this easily as a progressive web app, and I'm going to open this up. And so if anybody wants to test that out, you're welcome to scan that to install. It will give you instructions that says how to add it to your home screen for your device. And once you do that, you'll need to create an account. Very simple. You saw me work my way through that, the username, password, name, and then you'll be able to look at our inventory of precious art. So I thank you for putting up with my shortcomings as I went through that. There was a and a few of you tried to help me with things, so I appreciate that. And following along, Jen was following along while I was doing that. So that is, yes, Jen, to your question, there are plans for a part 2 and 3 and 4. Going back to the presentation here, the plan would be that we will, after allowing you to drill down to the detail and formatting that very nicely, we will either allow you to get information by email, and the idea would be that this is something that you can use Plantain app and workflows to do, to be able to do an API call that says send an email to this client. We can build a nice PDF or HTML email, include the image of the item and your name and whatnot. So that would be a part 2, and so it would be very fast for the user experience on the mobile. They'll hit one button and Plantain app will go off and do the work and deliver the email. And then again, I also mentioned the idea, I think we'll let you order prints of these, and so that would be a shopping cart type thing, and we'll integrate that with our with a payment system, probably on the Plantain app side as well. That's brought us to our hour.
Yeah, I think very, very cool solution, and it adds up with to what Chad was describing. There is no one tool that does it all, and in fact, low-code is such a wide spectrum, and we can see how leveraging more tools actually yields far better results than trying to squeeze everything in a single one. So,
yeah, I'm very enthused by this one. In my practice app, which went far smoother than that, I was able to build. There's a lot of capability that's in that low-code product, and it really meshes well with ours. So I think we'll be seeing more of this one.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Dale, for getting this in place for us and for the community. And thanks as well, Chad, for giving us the context. And thanks everyone for being here again this week. And make sure to also open the feedback form, give us more ideas on what other content we can prepare to help you be more successful with Plantain app. Thanks, and see you again next week, same day, same hour. Bye, everyone.